Daredevil Born Again. They called this season 1. How dare you? This is season 4. But because it's Daredevil Born Again, they're calling it season 1, Heaven's Half Hour. Many are born, but few are born again. And it's your boy Icon with a Marvel television TV review for you. And speaking of Born Again, obviously there's a difference to the look of what I'm doing. And that's because the reason why I haven't posted in a while, or why even this review was late, and why I still haven't seen that Captain America, but we're going to get to it. I was moving. I moved into a new apartment, and I'm currently residing in my new location. This isn't going to be the final the final look of it. I got to figure out how I'm going to do this setup now, but this is probably going to be the look until I figure out what I'm actually going to do. So just bear with me, and let's keep talking about some of this superhero goodness as we, prepare to be born again in the city of New York. So the episode of season 4, the episode starts. I like the opening shot because the Marvel Netflix television, universe, they've been away for about 5 years now. And it was this whole universe, this whole pocket in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that existed, and we closed that chapter, we closed those books. I like the opening shot of when they showed us Manhattan. It just opened. It was almost saying, like, this entire universe, we closed it, and now we're opening it again to the world. So that was nice. And I still say that the fact that where they were, Hell's Kitchen, where they live in Hell's Kitchen, is 51st Street. And Jessica Jones lived on 45th Street, in 9th Avenue. That's bullshit. You cannot be that close to Times Square. Because if you go back and watch all the shit that happened in Daredevil and in Jessica Jones specifically, and then realize they were around the corner from Times Square. If you're from New York, you know that's cap. But so anyway, it actually starts with Murdock, Foggy, and that god awful Karen Page, Karen Privilege Page, and they're back. So what they pretty much did was there were storylines that took place. There were storylines that happened, things that happened in the previous adaptation of Daredevil. And obviously there were stories that they wanted to do. There were things that they wanted to do, but they didn't get a chance to do them because their shows were canceled. They basically was just look, we got a 5-year gap that we need to fill in. We have new characters, we have new storylines, we have a new direction that we want to go in. Before we go in that direction, we got to actually sew up some of the loose ends from the previous administration. They got rid of, when it comes to all the unanswered questions from the first 3 seasons of Daredevil, they answered all that shit before the opening credits started. So we're back in Hell's Kitchen. Foggy lost some weight, he got a beard. Karen's still Karen. And she's still flirting with Murdock. I thought she was flirting with the Punisher. She needs to make up her mind. We're in Josie's. We're in Josie's bar. And the first character from the Marvel Netflix universe who got mentioned, who got name dropped, was Hogarth. Because Foggy was talking to this black woman. She was a lawyer. Her last name was McDuffie. And, he said that he used to work at Hogarth, Benowitz, and Chow, or Chow and Benowitz. So that was cool. So obviously she's a new character because she was all over Foggy. She was talking to Foggy. She's a lawyer too. And then she was like, oh, why did you leave? Why did you end up, going to the private sector? And then he was like, because I like the people. Karen and Murdock, they're having a conversation. Josie was still there. Said they're in Josie's bar. There was an Asian cop who was talking to this light-skinned black cop who apparently he was retiring. And then they were going back and forth about, are the cops or the vigilantes, who really protect the city. And then he was just the retired cop, he was just he was like, you got Daredevil, you got, he's like, you got White Tiger. And then I was like, White Tiger. And then they showed an image, they showed video footage of White Tiger beating up, some criminals in a bodega. And then I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. More on that later. But he's like, he's retiring or whatever. So now, here's where we get to the part where we start answering questions. So the villain in season 3, I believe his name was Bullseye. He was the one that basically stole the Daredevil costume and he was going around pretending to be Daredevil under the tutelage of Wilson Fisk. He was still out there because we saw in the final credit scene, he was on a table or something. They were trying to operate on him and he woke up. So apparently he's been around for the last 5 years. I don't know if they've had anything to do with him or if he just disappeared for 5 years and now he decided to show up. I don't know what his motivation is for doing what he did, but Foggy got a call from somebody that he's supposed to be defending. When we left, Foggy, Murdock, and Karen, they started their own firm called Nelson Murdock Page or whatever. One of the clients that, that Foggy was supposed to be, doing a case for, he called him. And then he said that, listen, I think there's some people trying to get into the apartment because the guy was supposed to be in trouble, like somebody was coming to get him, and Foggy stashed him at his apartment. So when Foggy was outside talking to the guy, Matt heard him because, he got the supersonic hearing. Him and Karen came outside, and they were just like, yo, he sounded like you were talking, you were talking to him. I think his name was like Buddy or something like that. But he was just like, hey, I heard you on the phone with Brian. Like, what's up? And then he was just like, it's nothing. He's just being him. He was like, I stashed him at my apartment. And then Matt was like, stashed him at your apartment? Like, I didn't even know you were talking to him like that. And then he was just like, yeah, he's like, don't worry about it. But then Matt heard through the phone. He was like, yo, it sounds like he's in trouble. And then Matt was like, yo, stay here. He's like, I'm going to go check it out. And then, Foggy apologized. He said, listen, I'm sorry I didn't tell you about him, but he's like, maybe I just didn't want to give you a reason to have to put the suit back on. And then, Murdock left. So Murdock goes down to the building, and then while he's on his way to the building, he hears like a gun being cocked or like a gun being set up, and then he realized he's been had. He turns around to make his way back to Josie's, and when he turns around and makes his way back to Josie's, Foggy and Karen, they're still outside because Foggy's still trying to call the guy and get a hold of the guy, and then while he's out there, Foggy got shot. So Bullseye was on a building across from Josie's diner, Josie's bar, and then when Foggy came out, he shot Foggy. I don't know why he specifically shot Foggy. That hasn't been answered yet, but hopefully we'll get a resolution to that. But he popped Foggy right in the gut. Foggy hits the floor. Karen's standing there screaming. Somebody comes out of the bar. The guy, Bullseye, shoots that guy. Another guy comes out of the bar. He shoots that guy. A third person comes out of the bar. He shoots that person. And I'm sitting here like, fool, what are you doing? You keep missing Karen Page. Like, how do you shoot 5 people and Karen Page is standing right there and you don't hit Karen the entire... I'm like, what are we doing? Like, no. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, wow, we done killed Foggy. We're about to lose Foggy. I'm like, how does Karen Page survive? The privilege continues. Ladies and gentlemen. Again, if you go back and watch some of my podcasts or watch some of my other reviews for other things, I've already explained why I don't like Karen Page's character. I mean, aside from the fact that she's a pain in the ass, but basically, I'm just going to sum it up real quick. In season 1 of Daredevil, the woman was on trial for murder. She beat the murder thing. She ended up getting a job working at the law firm. She ended up practically becoming a lawyer, sitting next to them during like depositions, during like actual cases. And then she graduated and got a job at a newspaper, being the head reporter, taking over the office of somebody, which in every single case, she was not qualified to do any of these jobs, and she just kept rising to the top. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Karen Privilege Page we're talking about. So anyway, so for some reason, everybody got shot but Karen. And then after that, Daredevil, he comes back. Him and Bullseye get into this big fight. They're like fighting all over the city, fighting in buildings, fighting in rooftops. They're fighting all over the place. Karen is basically trying to stop Foggy from bleeding. And personally, I didn't think he was going to die. I was just like, well, he's Foggy. It's Foggy. Like we're not going to lose Foggy. But lo and behold, when Daredevil was on the roof with Bullseye and the two of them were fighting, while Daredevil was fighting him, he was still listening to what was going on with Foggy at the same time. And then when him and Bullseye were on top of the roof and they were fighting each other, and then Matt basically like knocked him out, Foggy died. He passed on. And then Karen screamed and started crying. And then Matt screamed and started crying. And then he asked Bullseye, he was like, why did you do it? Why did you kill him? Why did you kill Foggy? The guy didn't answer. And then Matt was just like, fuck it, and just pushed him off the building. I was like, oh shit. But the way he pushed him, that was the most disrespectful yet gangsterous push I've ever seen in my entire life. And the man just fell flat on the floor. He didn't die, but for some reason he didn't die. He survived, like obviously like he was battered and I think his bones were broken, but he survived, whatever. And then Karen screamed again because she was like, shit, Matt tried to kill him. And then Matt was on the roof basically in tears and crying over the fact that he lost Foggy. That same cop who was retiring, he went upstairs to the roof, and when he went upstairs to the roof, he actually saw Matt Murdock in the Daredevil costume because Matt took off his mask. And then he was like, Murdock, so now he knows the secret. The credits rolled. We finally get the opening credits, and now, ladies and gentlemen, the old adaptation is official. It's kind of like with the Suicide Squad and Suicide Squad 2, where in the Suicide Squad, the second Suicide Squad movie, they spent the first 10 minutes of the second Suicide Squad movie killing the entire cast from the first Suicide Squad movie, like outside of Will Smith and Margot Robbie, and Killer Croc. So, but that was it. So it's like now we're moving on and we're in new territory. We are born again in New York City, and now it's the new Daredevil. Apparently, now within that time, because this was like, I think they said it was either 1 year later or 5 years later. I forget. Like, I don't remember the yearage. But basically, like that was everything I just talked about was pre-time, and now we're in current time. And apparently, within that pre-time period, Matt, he had sex with She-Hulk. He gave legal advice to Spider-Man, and obviously in the past, like he fought Echo in the basement. So now we fast forward present time. Matt has his own law firm with McDuffie, who was the black girl that Foggy was talking to in the bar. So now, as far as like getting rid of old characters and replacing them with new characters, McDuffie's basically the new Foggy. And the law firm that the two of them have, it's called Murdock and McDuffie. It looks like Matt Murdock's old apartment. Like when because he has a new apartment. Like he lives in a whole new apartment, but his old apartment, where it had like the neon light and everything, like that's the apartment it looked like they moved the law firm to, which is kind of crazy. So now he's basically like this rich and important lawyer. It's the day that Bullseye is supposed to be sentenced for what he did to Foggy that day. Matt spoke on his behalf, and while Matt was speaking on, on Foggy's behalf, Karen Page walks into the courtroom. The judge ends up sentencing Bullseye to consecutive life sentences, and he will never see the streets or see the light of day again, which means he'll be back at some point. So somebody's gonna break him out of prison. After that, like Murdock and Karen, they were excited. They were just like, justice, has been served, and the two of them start talking. Apparently, Karen has moved to San Francisco. Good riddance. She said, and then she said, then the two of them got to like their little argument. It's just like, oh, like my friend died, because Matt was like, why haven't you called me back? He's like, I've sent you numerous messages, whatever. And then she was like, my friend died too. And then she said, after Foggy died, we didn't speak for weeks. And then he was like, I was grieving, but he said, but after I was done grieving, he's like, I called you, like I wrote you messages, like I texted you. He's like, you never responded. And then she was just like, okay, but I'm like, tell him you're sorry, so, but then basically, she found a piece of Daredevil's like costume from the night that Foggy got shot, and then she gave it back to him, and then she was just like, why aren't you Daredevil? And he was like, there's no point in being Daredevil. And then she was like, you don't believe that, Matt? And then, and then she left, and he was like, yo, Karen, can we talk, please? And then she was like, no, I'm leaving. And then Matt was like, all right, fuck you. Like, he basically told her to bounce. Karen Page walked out, and for the love of God, thank you. We never have to listen to her again. But I know how these things work, and because Karen Page didn't die, she's probably going to pop up at least one more time before season one of Born Again is over, or she's going to show up when the Punisher has his his series eventually. But Karen's gone, thank you God. And so now we're moving on. And this leads us to Wilson Fisk. So Wilson Fisk, he showed up after he showed up in Hawkeye, and then he showed up in Echo. Echo shot him in the face, and then at the end of the Echo series, he decided to run for mayor. His wife, because I forgot they got married in season 3, his wife, Vanessa, she was taking over his nefarious underdeeds, like all his criminal activity. She was basically running the criminal empire. And when Fisk decided to bring himself back to New York and make his presence known, he interrupted a meeting that Vanessa was having with the criminal underworld. And then she was just like, Jesus, she was like, she said, I've been running your empire for years now. She's like, you just show up and everybody just leaves, just because you walk into the room. And he was like, that's what true power looks like. So the two of them, and then she got mad because she said, look, when you got shot in the face, she said, I sat by your bedside basically the whole time you were there. And then one day you just got up and you just left. And then he was just like, I was a broken man and I had to find myself. But he's like, I want my wife back. She cheated on him while they were gone, basically. The two of them unofficially split up because after he got shot in the face, he left to go do the Echo series. And then she stayed in New York so she could handle his business. He came back. In the meantime, she felt betrayed because she sat by his bedside the whole time that he was gone. And then when he came back, then when he finally woke up from the hospital, like he dipped to go be with Echo. So she felt some kind of way. She basically cheated on him with some random dude. So now he's trying to get his wife back, and he's just like, I'm going to run for mayor, and I need you to run the business, continue to run the business the way you've always run the business. And so like that's their whole plan now. But he's still trying to like get back in the draws, because she's messing with him, but she ain't really rocking with him like that. So that's this whole big thing. So now he while he's trying to be mayor, he has his campaign team. The black woman who was on his campaign team, she was the commissioner in the first 2, dare I say 3 seasons of Gotham. She was the commissioner before Jim Gordon took over as commissioner. So that's actually, no, she was the captain. She was the captain of the GCPD and until Jim Gordon eventually became captain when he stole it from Harvey Bullock. So it's nice to see her back again. So she still looked like Felicia Rassad's older sister. So now When Matt realizes he's running for mayor, he runs up on him. They go sit at a diner, and then we get the diner scene that we've been seeing on social media up until the release of the damn show. And it was actually kind of cool because when the two of them like sat down and had that conversation, it was almost like they were two old war buddies that hadn't seen each other in years, and they were just catching up. He was like, "So, do you have children?" And then he was like, "Oh, you lost weight. You know, you seem like lighter on your feet." And then, he was like, I mentored someone once." He was like, "Oh, was she the one that shot you in the face?" They were going back. But I'm gonna be honest, it was actually kind of cool. And it's like, dare I say, they kind of seem like friends. Like they really kind of seem like friends. But then he was just like, "Why did you stop being a vigilante?" And he was like, "Because Foggy died." And he was like, "I had nothing to do with that." And he was like, "Why are you running for mayor?" And he's like, "Because I want to help the city." And and they was like, "So what have you been up to in the past 5 years?" He's like, "Well, like I did the Echo series, and then I was also in Hawkeye." And then Matt was like, "Yeah." He was like, like I did Spider-Man, and I also did the Echo series. And he's like, "Weren't you in She-Hulk?" And he was like, "Yeah, we don't talk about that." But but then they basically just like Fisk was like, "I'm gonna run for mayor, and I'm gonna win for mayor." And he said, "When I become mayor, vigilantism will be outlawed." And then Matt was like, "Look, I don't want to be a vigilante." And then, Fisk was like, "I don't want to be the kingpin." So he was like, "Okay, so you stay on your side of the street. I'll stay on mine. Never the twain shall meet, and we'll be cool." All right, 1, 2, 3, break. And then he leaves. So then after that, McDuffie ended up setting Murdock up with a date. And the woman that she set him up with, she's a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a therapist or whatever. And she's pretty much going to be the new Karen Page, or at least for the meantime, because who knows, she might not last. The two of them end up going on some dates, like it was a disaster in the beginning, but then it worked out. They're getting it on. And now that they're getting it on, they're on a date. And then while they're out on a date, they find out that Fisk, basically won, the mayoral race. And now Wilson Fisk is the mayor of New York City. So, and then, she asked him, his date asked him, she was just like, like it seems like things are personal with Fisk. And he was just like, "Yeah, but, we're basically going to see what happens." So, but he said he's not going to put the costume on. So, I mean, the episode should have been called Born Again, but I guess they can't call it that because he's technically not Daredevil yet. But it ended with Fisk becoming mayor, him talking to Vanessa, and because he was like, "I know you cheated on me, Vanessa." And then she was like, "Don't kill him." And he was like, "I promise." So I was like, so a little bit of simping on the part of the Kingpin. But no, it's the Kingpin. He gonna kill him. But that was pretty much how the episode ended, with Fisk, becoming mayor and Murdock just standing there as everyone cheers. And thank you for tuning in. So episode 1 in the books for Daredevil. We will be reviewing episode 2 because they gave us 2 episodes right out the gate. And like I said, we're gonna share your questions, comments, and or concerns. What do you think about this particular episode, the rebirth of Daredevil? Share your questions down below, and we will continue to talk about it. I would say check out my other reviews, but right now I just got Harley Quinn up on the channel, so check out Harley Quinn. You can definitely go back and catch some of my old stuff. Like I got Cobra Kai, like the series finale of Cobra Kai up on my channel. Like I said, I'm going to be doing some more Street Fighter stuff once I get my PlayStation and everything set up so I can do some more video games. I'm also going to be doing WWE 2K25. We're going to live stream some 2K25. I just got to get my video game stuff set up. Just bear with me. But we're still doing Harley Quinn. We're still doing Daredevil Born Again as we roll on for some more of this goodness. Check me out on social media. You can check me out on TikTok, on Instagram, on X, and YouTube, where you can leave your questions, comments, and concerns. Because like I said, because we're all reborn, I'm reborn, you're reborn, and let's be reborn together. So until next time, guys, for episode 2 of Daredevil Born Again, take care, and we're out this bitch.